What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate, Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live or premiering, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, crypto, and thanks button in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patreons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So a massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to Giuseppe Montesano, Trying to Twangle, Mitch Kennedy, Original D-Rose, Rod, The Name's Burley, Twad Wazzle, Jason Hornsby, Christoph Fournier, Flat Earth Travolta, JMails24, Unimento, M, Iron26, Endless, Goldie McKinnon, Retro Bill, More Books, Cannabear, Bogey, Michael Kahn, John Kays, Patrick Gunnels, Hairy Blade, Mobile Max 777, Rob W, Reese Pound, Del West Watson, Maria Neelands, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, The Real Gabster, Abraham Mohammed, Skeptic 936, Life is Short, Texas Mike, David Wayne Foster, and Dank. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now I will hand over to whoever's in Discord and Google so you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for today's live show.
So you isolated the problem down to the graphics card now?
No, there's three problems. One was the RAM, one was the CPU, and one was the graphics card.
Oh,
That's basically the whole computer. One problem's been semi-solved, so the graphics card has been reordered. There's another one waiting there now, a little one, much lower powered one, waiting to go in once the block's got a new block. The RAM should have never been configured that way. It had 4 sticks, it just couldn't cope with it, no matter what setting I set it to, even the very lowest base frequency or under the base frequency. It would hit ATC no matter what I did. Now it's got 2 sticks in it. That's not a problem anymore. The RAM is perfectly under control in temperature. But unfortunately, between me and Craig, or me and the computer guy, we managed to put him in the wrong slots. So we put him in alternate slots, but just in what we thought was the correct one, which is A1 and B1. Or no, A1 and A2 is what we put them in slots. But that's actually not the primary slots. It's actually B1 and B2 that are primary slots. So as a result, it still thinks it's in quad channel mode, which is irritating because it's essentially thinking it's got one stick of 32 gig in a half a quad channel configuration, which is very wrong. But because it's had a BIOS update, it means that it now causing a load of feedback, by the way, Brian. You pop yourself on mute if you're not talking. Thanks. Yeah, it's lost track of what I was talking about now. Now it's in a weird configuration, but it's had a BIOS update. So even in the really horrendous configuration that it's found itself in, it still works. It's not falling over, and the RAM's not overheating. So that's good. So the RAM problem's been solved, and the configuration problem can be solved next time it's cracked open. I can just move them both over one slot to B1 and B2, and then that'll solve that problem. As I say, the graphics card's waiting. The CPU, now it's fully attached to the cooler because I've completely rewired all the cabling for a pre-built PC that had money spent on it being built, I might add. I've gone in and rewired the whole thing. And then with help of Craig to get it actually buttoned up and wired up to be functional, it doesn't have any clearance issues. It does. It's still pressed right up against the back of the SATA cables for the hard drive, where there's some stupid RGB I/O cover that's no requirement for anybody, but it's fouling on the back of the hard drives, or it was much worse fouling than it is now, with a change of SATA cables that are right angled so that they're not pointing out and fouling on the motherboard. So that's that problem solved, which has meant that the CPU, while it is still blisteringly hot, doesn't have a 107-degree hotspot all the time. It's now a 96-degree hotspot. So it has improved the CPU to the point where originally I thought it might need replacing. Now I think it'll be fine. And just the GPU change and RAM configuration change moving forward should actually turn this into a very good PC. So there is light at the end of the tunnel, and it's taken money to achieve that. But that's just life sometimes. But after that has been done, yeah, it should last 5 to 7 years. I don't see any reason why not.
Well, that's good news.
Yeah, I think so.
So we're going to have a show today?
Yes, if it doesn't fall over, the graphics card is very, very poorly, let's just say. And while it might be, well, it's still overheating, it's still too powerful for the machine, so there's still, even if it was perfectly functional, a justifiable reason to change it. However, it's not perfectly functional. It's got its issues. It's already had one today. During this recording, or during this members only bit. I'm streaming to members at the moment. There's a couple of people watching. And it's already had a problem. So it didn't pick up the monitor. One of the monitors just went black. Well, that meant it didn't pick up the monitor in OBS. So when I look across and go, oh, it's just black, I think, oh, OBS has crashed. No, it hasn't. It's just another graphics card glitch. But there we go.
Oh, so you're waiting for a new graphics card?
We've got it. It's already arrived.
Oh, you got it. Okay.
Yeah, it's sat with Craig. It's just it didn't fit on the original block, which we already knew that the block for the new graphics card had a different number. But just to see if we could solve the problem immediately, Craig has cracked it open, tried it. It didn't fit, which is where I, like I say, was a bit upset because I was hoping it would come away fully functional. It wasn't. He's buttoned it back up. I've done a load of rewiring. The RAM has had 2 sticks removed. They've ended up in the wrong slots, but that's okay. It still functions because, most importantly, and I think this is the thing that's done the most good, Craig was sat there till 8 o'clock updating the BIOS. So he formatted a thumbstick in VAT32 or whatever it's supposed to be, stuck it in the front, went into the BIOS, told it to read that drive with the new BIOS written on with a certain name for the BIOS. And then we sat for 25 minutes while it updated it. I tested it. And even though I'm like, there's something very wrong with this RAM, it's very janky, it worked and it didn't fall over at that point where it had been prior. So when we first got it wired back up with the same faulty components in the form of the graphics card, but with less RAM, it just kept falling over. It wouldn't post, it wouldn't train the memory, it just wouldn't do anything. But as soon as he updated the BIOS, suddenly it did. Suddenly it all started to work, just be janky, which is how it is. That's the state we've left it in because it was buttoned up, and by then he was obviously a bit sick of being there and just doing my work. So he eventually was like, look, it's working now, and the BIOS is updated, and it's not falling over, it is posting, it has trained the memory. Yes, it's janky, but it works. I'm like, I give it a 50-50 chance that this will actually do a show today. So here we are.
I hope it finally gets resolved because I know you got to be losing your mind.
Well, yeah, I was, but now I feel like certain aspects of knowledge straight away when it wouldn't post the first time. I managed to change a setting and it did post, right? Enough for us to get into the BIOS to do the BIOS update. Well, once he'd done the BIOS update, I ran the first test once it had actually got to Windows and it immediately overheated. Immediately. And I was like, shit, the cooler's just not on properly. It's going to have to, and this was getting on quite late. And then I went, unless this motherboard has automatically assigned a 350 watt power limit to the CPU. Let's go and have a look. So I went straight to that part of the BIOS, found it. Sure enough, 350 watts. I'm like, hold on, just give me 2 minutes. Typed in 130 on both short and long-term power. Reset the BIOS. Reran the test. Didn't overheat. Functioned normally. Well, that's because of, without being, I'm not boasting, but I've got an extensive knowledge of how this computer works now and all the intricacies of the BIOS as well. Not something I ever really wanted to attain, but I have. So little things like that, just being in the shop with my computer guy, Craig, and being able to say, no, it's not actually overheating. It's just got 3 times the power level that this cooler can cope with. Let's just address that and see again. So those little things, having a good knowledge of it meant that with a day's worth of work, which is what the guy put in, he basically dedicated his whole day. He's going away as well. He's like having a day off today. So, didn't want to be there till 8 o'clock, but was, because I wanted a new BIOS. Because I'm like, that will solve the problem long term when we start changing graphics cards and changing RAM and, fundamentally changing hardware. Having an up-to-date BIOS, I think, will be the thing that will set us on a good foundation. And even with the GenQ RAM configuration, this computer is yet to fall over. Slight lie, I have got it to fall over when I ran a RAM test, but I know what that's caused by. It's the configuration. But with the exception of that, in a fundamental sense, wait for the crash. If you're watching live, this is the last normal thing I say before it crashes. It hasn't. I ran a barrage of tests last night. I stayed up till about 1:30. And then by the time I'd finished them, I'm like, hold on, I finished all the tests. and I haven't had to change anything to make it not fall over. So I'm like, that's a good enough sign. That's better than I've normally achieved ever. So I'm like, well, I'm going to try and have a show tomorrow. I'm not going to wait for the new block to come in for the graphics card. Fuck that. I'm just going to do a show. And here we are.
I agree. Run it, baby. Run it.
Yeah. Run that, baby. How's it? Run it how you got it? Or what did they say? You're going to run it anyway?
Drive it like you stole it.
Not drive it like you stole it. It's just, I'm going to run it anyway. It's like when people go to the races on the drag strips. You say you've got one cylinder blown. Yeah, the whole side of it's collapsed. I'm going to run it anyway. 7 cylinders is just as good.
We use that terminology as well. Run it, baby. Run it.
We in the electrical industry say let her eat.
Again?
No, the worst I've heard was the plumbers when you're working with them and they say, all right, we're going to be working on the fly. So I don't know what's going on. So I finally asked somebody, what does that mean, working on the fly? Like, well, they're not going to turn the gas off right now. Just going to work with the gas on. I'm like, huh? You're using torches.
Yeah, electricians are the same.
Yeah, back when I was an electrician, I drilled a 4160 bus. It's 4,160 volts, 200 amp bus while it was alive.
Don't tell me you didn't power it down and you're touching shit.
Couldn't power it down. It was at a hospital.
Yeah, sometimes you just have
Oh,
to work
so-
on things live, in situ, especially if you're troubleshooting. I'm supposed to troubleshoot something that's got electricity flowing through it if it's off. You know what I mean?
Well, that's the same thing with germ theory. How you going to work on anything that's dead and not alive and then claim it's science?
Say that again.
Yeah, I sighed on mute. Sighed, as in...
Yeah, that's I didn't understand that. That makes sense to me. But
When they're testing things in germ theory, are they testing live things?
why does that matter?
No, because it's dead, doesn't it? Doesn't it matter that you're working on dead tissue and not live tissue?
If it's so, it is a germ and it is dead.
You've
And
gone
you're
way too
doing
far
what?
too quickly, John. Sorry, what study are you specifically talking about that deals specifically with dead cells, Neil?
I have no idea. I'm just reiterating
Knew it.
some things I hear that people can test it. I don't know anything about it.
Which test?
Well, let's say if they're testing for vaccinations,
Which one?
pick one.
You pick what is your example. This is where the conversation ends.
No. Here,
Yes?
I say this is what I say. Hold on.
I heard what you
say
said.
This.
We heard what you said. I quizzed you further.
No.
And now we found out that you don't really know anything specific about any specific test on specifically dead cells like you're arguing.
Well, what
we've already
I
got
say
there.
is this is.
We've already got
Hold
there.
on.
It's the end.
Let me
It's the
finish
end.
my point so you know
I
where
heard your point.
stand.
I heard
I
it.
fight against it because I say Al Capone got gonorrhea and he died because he did not take the penicillin shot because he was scared of needles, so they say. You can't tell me that you're just going to heal yourself by changing your freaking diet and not taking it. So I'm against it. I know that some things work, and that's one of them. You can't tell me any different.
Well, no, I try and establish with what you're basing this on in terms of what you have or haven't seen work. And then once we figure out what that work is, we'll find out why it's doing that work. And if that reason is based on a cause and effect relationship, then I'm more than happy to stand by it as validated science. But we need specifics to critique this, Neil. Your generalizations based on... We've already ended the conversation.
Right. Because when you take the shot, you're cured. I don't care what you say.
That's again
What
just a very,
shot?
very broad.
Penicillin.
What's that have to do with vaccines, Neil?
Other than germ theory with Pasteur. Nothing. See, silence from Neil.
I recently
Neil,
heard that
you gotta be really
I
careful what you
recently
say.
heard
You gotta be
that
careful what
all
you say,
his
Neil.
documents were falsified.
Which document?
All his documents concerning everything he worked on, somebody supposedly
Which one?
debunked it. And I said, how do you
Which
know
one? Which one?
that they got the right documents?
Which document specifically are you referring to? I
All right,
already
let me
know
find
that
out. Hold on. Give me 1 minute.
No, I already know that you're being vague and general. Give me 1
Can
minute.
we
Just don't have
can we
this
drop the
conversation if you
subject?
don't know what you're talking about, Neil. It's just going to end you up landing in trouble. What I think you're trying to do is antagonize the information out of others. That's what I think you're trying to do here, Neil. That's the impression I get.
But that's what I always do. What's the problem?
Antagonizes people when you challenge them based on, I will take a devil's advocate position hoping I'm corrected and gain the information I'm looking for. Just go and seek
No,
the
because
information
I've been
first.
fighting about this and I've been hearing nonsense that if you just, okay, let me just give you this.
No, don't.
How do you know that you contacted this certain thing by the person that, how do you know that you weren't in the right mood at the time? Or you thought that somebody got sick, so your mind tricked you that you got sick. This is the kind of shit you hear.
Aye. Based on what? What research paper? What experimental evidence is basing this sympathetic illness you're claiming?
Well, when
Sounds
I
like
say
correlation.
if you have something different,
Do we
then
have to do
propose
this?
that to me.
Number
They're
one,
telling me that it's
this is so outside the remit of what YouTube is allowing currently. I'm going to get in trouble if we carry on this conversation, Neil, just because you're ignorant. Can I not risk my channel over your ignorance? Is that okay by you?
I am ignorant to it. I don't know anything about
Right,
it.
but just don't risk my channel over your ignorance trying to dig out information and ask quizzed out questions that are against YouTube rules.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know that.
Right, and correlative studies, right, and scientific experiments are not the same thing, but you know you can learn things from correlations. Just that hand wave them as nothing isn't a great idea either. Just to say that, just to keep it real broad and general.
Yeah, Neil.
So then let's talk about flat Earth then.
Right, whatever you like, unless it leaves me with a sense of disapproval or YouTube's disapproval, then you can't.
No. This won't be. This is okay. I heard people talking about how the sun movement in Antarctica matches the globe. So then the question was, well, if it matches a globe, then why would you still be a flat earther?
The sun movement in Antarctica matches a globe.
It doesn't,
Correct.
according to first-hand account from Robert Shortman when I interviewed him. Robert Shortman's first-hand testimony, having spent 18 months in Antarctica, is that it behaves very similar to our seasonal differences. It gets a bit higher in what they would call summer and gets lower to the horizon and appears for less time in the winter. As for a 24-hour non-stop sun moving around their position like you would get in the north, that simply doesn't happen according to a witness who spent 18 months there. So I don't know what else I can tell you beyond every time someone says, well, show me, what you end up is doctored footage or vague footage. Now, given that in the north, I have literally had somebody on live stream showing me multiple points of their day when there is 24-hour sun where they are, showing a live audience that the sun is continuously above the horizon. Now, he did it with a phone on my live stream for the north. If it was possible in the south, you could do the same. It wouldn't be crappy, vague footage that's been hacked together and constant fakery that's easy to show how fake it is with slices and dices to get it to look 24-hour when it isn't. So given that I've got first-hand testimony that says it isn't 24 hours ever in Antarctica, where he was and spent a prolonged period, and given how easy it is to acquire sun above the horizon continuously in the north, it almost does it where I am. So it's easy to acquire that information here. I would expect the same for the south. It simply isn't forthcoming. Take that as you like.
Well, also,
What about
also
Alaska?
hold on. Also, when you're talking about the placement of the sun in the sky, what are you talking about? Its elevation angle?
Just it
Yeah,
being,
he said he measured it 30 degrees.
the angle doesn't matter. The fact that it's claimed to be above the horizon all day, I couldn't care less how much above the horizon, even if it's skirting the horizon at some points. Having the sun never go below the horizon for an entire 24-hour period is what we're discussing. It does not do that in Antarctica, according to first-hand testimony.
Right, but that has nothing to do with the globe.
Only when you claim that it does, and it doesn't. And they say that it does because Earth's a sphere and therefore rotating about your axis against the toppermost part of the axis would give you 24-hour sun in the south, if it were true. It doesn't. That doesn't disprove anything because the Earth sphere claims disproved by multiple other angles. No pun intended.
Right, but you measure a 30-degree angle of the sun, right? What are you talking about? Taking that measurement from the equatorial plane upside down?
Yeah, I get what you're
Still
saying.
talking
You're
about
saying if someone phrases it such that the sun remains no less than 30 degrees above the horizon for an entire 24-hour period, what are you going to do? Turn around and say, well, you need a flat Earth to give you a 30-degree quantification? Who cares? It's above the horizon all day, or it's not.
I'm just saying, even if it was, it's not proving anything. You're taking those measurements from a flat Earth.
Yeah, I agree with that.
You could say that, and I would if somebody argued it and said angle, I'd pounce all over it. I'm just saying that your first statement's more true. What does it prove? If somebody could show me that we had 24-hour sun in the south, I would have even less of an explanation or understanding for what the sun is, which is zero to begin with. It would make even less sense to me. Okay? I don't know what it is or why it's doing what it's doing. Now you're telling me it's doing something that's alien to its perceived trajectory that I have here in the north. Okay? Well, that doesn't make any sense if it actually was doing that, but I don't believe that's so. I don't think it's making a 24-hour cycle above the horizon, regardless of how you quantify the angle, in the south.
It wouldn't be quantifying the angle, it would be qualifying it as an angle.
Now, qualifying it as above the horizon, I don't need to measure the angle, so long as I can say on a live stream, the guy who showed me his 24-hour sun in the north never once gave me its angle above the horizon. He just showed the sun. There it still is. I can still see it. That's it. That's all he needed to do, because that's what shows it's above the horizon all the time. That's all. With tracking the sun, we wanted solar noon and sunset. For this guy, solar noon, what? It's always above the horizon for him, and it's never setting. So because it never set, he never gets to give us his setting sun on his live stream. He's always, look, it's still up, still up, still up, still up. 24 hours later, still up. North, no problem. But like I keep saying, you're saying, well, no, you need a flat Earth for the angle measurement. Yeah, that's true. But in this instance, the guy showing me in the north didn't need to qualify it that way. Or quantify it that way, I should say.
Right, but I don't think you're fully getting what I'm saying about the celestial sphere. There is no globe claim. The globe claim is actually a flat Earth claim that's been confused over time. It's a flat Earth that's antipodal to another flat Earth. So that's how it should be said, that it conforms to that model. But what's it matter if it does?
Yeah, but they said that's just your words, John.
No, he's saying that I've got to go straight on his side now. I understand what you mean. You're saying in terms of how the celestial sphere is mapped out, you've got the north and south, quote unquote, hemispheres, and those spheres, half spheres, are the projected view of the dome of the heavens in a perspective representation above a flat disk for the north and for the south. And if you're going to describe it as a not hemisphere but celestial sphere, all you're describing is those two projections sandwiched one antipode from the other with the completion of the hemispherical perspective-based view you would get for each, but sandwiched on top of each other. That's the only representation of a sphere. It doesn't, in physical reality, ever exist as a sphere. Ever. It can't. But if you model it that way and set the two models antipode, not two models, the two projections of the positions when you've got a, what do they call those? There's a specific name for those star charts that rotate. What are they called? Anybody? Nobody? What's the name?
Oh, jet and a half. I can recall.
We covered them the other day. It's on one of my thumbnails. I can't
What
remember.
what was the question?
What's the star charts where they've got like a, it was blue on the one we covered about 2 weeks ago. What do you call those? Where you've got like a plane that you can rotate along the top with the time and the dates around the edges. You match it up to
Planisphere.
planispheres. Of course, it's got the bloody name we're talking about and the sphere bit that we're talking about. You've got two planispheres antipode from one another. That's what John's saying. That's where you get the representation of an actual sphere that never exists in reality because it's a perspective view from two locations, right? There is no sphere ever.
The other proof that was said was you only, when a rainbow appears, you only see half a rainbow because it's cut off at the horizon. If not, it would be a full spherical looking rainbow.
Okay. And
I say it's cut off by the flat Earth, not the horizon. Earth is flat. It's not going to take the shape of a sphere ever.
Neil, that's a trap. You're assuming they're not saying that the it's collapsing into the horizon or becoming part of the horizon.
Are they
And if
saying
you're
that's
gonna
the end of
fire, it
the
would be a
visual
circle.
limit?
yeah, you cut him off, Neil. Now he's intentionally on mute because you cut him off.
Das quasi bei den EN-Dokumenten auch automatisch reingeschrieben und das quasi dann nur noch auf
Hold on a
Speichern
second.
drücken.
Bloodbuzz. Hello? Can you hear us?
How is
Bloodbuzz?
he talking about?
Hold on a second, Neil.
In der Liste,
Hello?
wo die Coversheets hinterlegt werden, die heißt halt auch
Only in the pre-show,
just
ladies
mute
and
him.
gentlemen. Someone said muted him. Thank you, whoever did that. Go ahead, Neil.
John, I didn't intentionally cut you off, but just I didn't hear anything. So I said, are you saying that it's cut off by that? That's where your vision ends?
Who said it's getting cut off? If it's just becoming part of the horizon, the people really believe that somebody is taking scissors and cutting the bottom of rainbows off? Is that what they told you?
What they're saying is it's just that if it doesn't, if the horizon, it's because the horizon cut. Yeah, that's how they said it. The horizon cuts off your vision.
What you need to do, Neil, is you get a platform, say maybe 6 feet square, and on that platform, what you need is like a suspended shower, basically, like, you know what I mean? Something that will create rain. What you do is you get a big crane and you dangle that platform with a mechanism that can deliver a shower of rain onto the platform, right? And you stand on it while the light source is also attached to the platform and drop the platform towards the ground. And that'll prove that the Earth is falling.
Okay, I got a question then. Are there any curved lines in geometry?
Absolutely. You define them with straight lines, Neil.
Yes, there are. Why are you asking?
I just wanted to know.
Kind of.
Yes,
You
there
can't have
are.
curved line. When you think about Rob Durham's video when he shows the elevation angle example on a sphere surface, well, he's doing geometry if you want to look at it in one way. Okay. Well, he's dealing with curves. He's just saying you can't get angles from them.
Right. And when you're talking about getting an angle to a curve, is defining a curve, right? And that was always a big argument on the globe side, is your line of sight to the geometric horizon is defining the shape of Earth. We ain't got the geometric horizon to talk about no more.
Right.
So we ain't.
Yeah, it's game over at the end of their physical tangent point because the tangency nature of the straight line that meets it is fundamental to their assertion in mathematics. Once they lose that, all bets are off for sphere Earth geometry. That's it. It's game over. No tangent point, no sphere Earth geometry.
Right. You define that curve with straight lines of sight. Even a Kumu virus will tell you the line of sight doesn't curve. They all say the same thing. You got a straight line of sight to the horizon. What are you guys talking about? Refracted.
Right. That's the cool virus, correct. He'll say light is bending, and he'll say straight line to the horizon. Yeah. Hey, 10.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Everything's stable today?
Stable, yes. Glitchy,
Yes.
finicky, jittery. Yes. Also.
Are
It
you
hasn't had a new
describing
graphics card,
Neil or
unfortunately.
the computer?
I'm still using the old graphics card, so I've already had one black screen today. That's something that I've managed to get around in the way that I've got around it previously. But in terms of it just not crashing, it's never been more stable. It's horrendous. It doesn't quite work properly because the RAM's in the wrong slots. But that's something easily resolved. And the temperature of the RAM, which was also something that would cause it to fall over, is 20°C lower than it would be at this point. We're streaming to live members. It's 4 people watching. We're recording, and the RAM's at 52°C. Normally it'd be hitting 70.
Well, to answer Ten's
hang on.
question,
Hang on, Neil.
I'm not stable because I've been away from my wife for almost 3 weeks, so I'm half a man.
Oh, I
Sorry,
feel bad
Neil.
for you,
I
Neil.
can pass it up.
You need to put your 2 boys to work, by the way.
They do work.
They pay for household stuff with their money, or do they just earn their money for themselves?
Well, the one is doing the YouTube thing, so
That's not working.
he's trying to get off his feet with that. Yeah, it's a whole bunch
No.
of identification. You
No.
need Nathan.
No.
My
that's
son
not
desperately
working.
wants a job. I need to get his identification. His freaking passport ran out, and I got to get him either a new passport or I got to get him down to the place where he can get his identification. And everything is impossible without a car. So hopefully this week I get in a car.
What do you mean you need to get him a new passport? You mean he needs to get himself a new passport? Has he not got a bus
Yeah,
service?
but he needs, how's he going to get that? I got to get him there. Just
Why?
know it's not like local buses in Alabama where you can get on a bus. Trust me.
He needs to figure that out, doesn't he? Anyway, the point is you need to put those boys to work. You've got burly boys. They should be contributing to your
The
household.
boys want to work. Trust me. They want to work. They got to get their identifications. Now, the place to get your identification happens to be about 15 miles away. No buses that go there. It's just Alabama's totally different from New York.
Walk
Where you
it.
could jump on a bus, you could jump on a train.
Walk.
There's no sidewalks to walk. You'd be walking on a freaking highway.
Why do you need a passport? You don't need a passport.
Well, identification. He had a passport. We thought that was going to work, but it expired, I think, in December.
Why aren't they doing work with you? Why aren't they grafting on floors?
I'm not doing floors, Nathan.
I
I
know.
work with my brother in air
I know what you're
conditioning.
doing. I'm just saying, why aren't they moving forward, grafting with
I
you?
would never, never, never bring them into the flooring trade. It's a dead trade. Dead.
Okay.
I would rather him do something with computers, or I'd rather him learn HVAC, like my brother's doing, because that is a necessity. In the States, when your air conditioning or your heating goes, you got to get that fixed. You can't just say, I'll wait till next year. Where floors, we can get another 3 years out of the floor.
Are you saying floors are obsolete, Neil?
Yeah, that's what he said. I'm not even going to argue.
As far when you put a floor down, okay, unless there's a broken pipe where your floor gets ruined, yeah, then you have to change it. What I'm saying is it's not a necessity trade. It's a cosmetic trade, like painting. right? It's not a necessity trade. Your air conditioning goes, your heating goes, your plumbing goes. You must fix it. Your floors, you can look at it and say they look a little worn, but I can get another 3 years out of that. Your pipe bursts, your electric goes out, your HVAC goes. You're not saying I can get 3 years out of it. What the freak don't you understand?
None of those things are really necessities. Really,
Oh, forget it. Come on, talk about flat Earth. You're going to piss me right off.
Says the man who wanted to talk about vaccines. Saying,
No,
don't
I was
antagonize me.
I was being
but-
antagonist.
Wow.
Yeah,
Hang
don't
on.
antagonize Neil. Well, check it out.
You're
I
going to
did-
stress your computer out on the first day. Slow down, guys. Change the subject.
It's not that kind of stress.
We don't need this. What show is today? Should it continue?
1918, I think.
Oh, okay. So that was
I labelled it wrong.
no, it's okay. That's a carryover. Then the one Monday, which was the. All right, that's fine.
Well,
19.
I was gonna announce on Monday my plan going forward to say that I'd booked the computer in for Tuesday. So when Neil was here and someone else was in the live stream and I was in Discord, I managed to announce that I did get a recording of it, but I haven't remuxed it, so it won't get published. But you know, me saying this computer's very unstable, there's something broken on the graphics card, and then after about 3 minutes, it just failed on its ass, blue screened, completely died, like a very bad death. I'm like, okay, and then it wouldn't come back to life after that. Literally, I couldn't get it to load. So all I did all Monday was trying to get it to a state where it could be worked on by my computer guy. In other words, I'm sure I explained this in one of the chats. Like a car that you're going to go and get tuned, you can't go to the tuner with the car unless it's ready, fixed, perfectly working for them to then tune it. Well, it's the same with this. If the computer went in, it's like, it won't turn on, it won't, the last thing he's going to start doing is stripping graphics cards out of it if he's got to first turn it on and make it work, because he's going to have no hope if it doesn't even turn on before he's putting new hardware in. That's a crazy thing to do. So like I say, all I did all Monday was get it to actually